Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all.
Okay, here we are, week 9, coming into a race week. We're sprinting into the next, sprinting to the grid.
Yes, sprinting to the grid. It's finally race week, almost tomorrow, technically. It's been a long 4 weeks. I really almost feel like this is going to be a whole new season. It feels like we've been through so much with the first 3 races, and now it's like we're amped back up for a whole new season. So can't wait.
I think you told before, this isn't normal to have so many weeks off in between this early in the season too. So it's been kind of crazy. We'd planned on doing a team spotlight, but so much happened. I think as people got antsy, it's just ramping up, like coming up to the race. That we just got a lot to cover. So before we get into that, how was your week?
It was good. Very busy, I think. And so today I'm hoping after we're done, it's Sunday and I just want to relax and just chill out with a book and some movies. But guess what came up on my Facebook timeline this morning? Or not timeline, memories.
What was that?
What we were doing 6 years ago today.
What were
we were backstage with Naughty by Nature and, and a whole bunch of other rap groups from the 90s.
But you were rapping for them.
I rap for Tretch from Naughty by Nature. I love him. He's amazing.
It was so funny. Yes, I remember that. I remember we got backstage. They were like, hey, what is this, the suburban house mom doing this for? But yeah.
Don't let the exterior fool you.
That's right. That's so funny.
All about the hip hop.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of mama, your daughter, my pseudo daughter and niece, she is definitely just heating up our social media, which I love.
She doubled our followers on TikTok because of the 3 videos that I posted with her rating the F1 drivers. So hysterical. The comments were so funny because she just says these little things and people for sure picked up on them. I haven't put them out on our other social media. I might do little clips. I just feel like they're better in their entirety. And I think that it's more of a TikTok thing than maybe an Instagram thing. So go look for us on TikTok. But the one thing I mentioned last week on our podcast was there was a common theme amongst the people that she rated really high. And she rated all like the Spanish or Mexican driver, Checo, very high, like 9s. Even Fernando, which I thought Fernando, because he's older and usually she's like, ew, not ew, like, but it just seems inappropriate age-wise for her to be, thinking an older man, 20-something years older is really good looking. But she's like, he's older, but in a good way. Like, I like it.
So she gets that. Yeah, I almost guessed that because of her one of her relationships, but I didn't want to go there. But yeah, she's so smart. I mean, she's such a smart young woman, and I love her attitude and her fight. She's always standing up for what's right, and I just love her humor too. So
she will tell it like it is, and she definitely tells it like it is on this. But
we'll have to keep her. We'll have to keep her around for periodic things. Maybe we'll use her. You can't keep her as a special guest star appearance.
She needs to be, because people are asking her to rate other drivers. So drivers from the past, so like Senna and that kind of stuff. And then somebody else said, show her Danny Rick, which I should have added Danny into this grouping. And then what was the other thing they said? Oh, I should show a picture of Max. So I had a picture of Max in a tuxedo holding his world championship trophy from last year. And they said that I should show a picture of him like in his racing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we'll see. We will do more because I told her she's like comedy gold.
This is awesome. Well, for my week, it's been busy with work, but it finally got warm enough here in Berlin that I had shorts on yesterday, which was amazing. In fact, when we got up, the temperature here and the temperature in Orlando, Florida were the exact same.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's
so nice.
crazy.
It was so
That's
nice. Yeah.
awesome.
Spring has sprung. So it's very
Yes.
nice. Very, very nice. Well, like I said, we're not doing a team spotlight because we just have a lot to do. So we might as well get into it. Our goal of having 45-minute podcasts has been blown out of the water the last couple. So let's see how we get to it. Start with some team updates.
Yes. So first of all, on Tuesday, we were excited to hear what the FIA, if they would allow Ferrari to have a review of Sainz's penalty from Australia, and they turned them down flat. Didn't even want to hear it. They said there was no new evidence, nothing new. So goodbye. I guess Fernando had even done a statement in Carlos's, favor, saying, it's going to happen. It's the first turn, all of that good stuff. And they said, no, none of that is new. They knew all of that before. So nope. So both Carlos and Ferrari put out press statements. Carlos said he was really disappointed. He still felt that the penalty was disproportionate to what happened. And I kind of felt like they both threw a little bit of shade because they said they look forward to having conversations with the FIA, with F1, with the other teams to ensure that there is consistency moving forward. And Carlos said that the inconsistency has been a hot topic for many seasons, and they need to be clearer for the sake of the sport. And I feel like you and I talked about that on last week's episode, is the inconsistency of penalties just over the past, couple of years. So, the teams have said it. They're calling them out. So we'll see what happens.
I agree. And it's one of those things that, you've got, especially with this influx of all these new fans that are coming in, you want to, I would think that the FIA would want to get that shored up and try to because perception, man, that's the whole phrase, perception is reality. And you don't want to lose this fan base. You're getting this whole big up ramp and all these people coming in. And yes, drama can breathe a lot of social media and all that kind of stuff, but you really want to be that F1 to me has always been this elite version, like the pinnacle of all of motorsport, and having that air of I don't know, just better. And not better like in a snobby way, but better in a cleaner, more elite, more professional. And this just takes it down a notch. So I really hope that they'll listen to that and step outside of it and really think that maybe a little more introspective and go, we need to clean this up. Again, like we said last week, they've got so much technology, so many cameras. There's no excuse for it to take so long to make certain decisions, like we saw, I think, in the second race. And in this race, the inconsistencies between Gasly and Carlos and whatnot, it needs to be fair and balanced and clearly laid out guidelines. And if there is a difference, then state the difference so everyone understands. Like the company I work for, transparency is one of our number one values. That's the key. State it. Let everybody understand instead of just being because we said so.
Right. Exactly. At least get the conversation going. I don't know that they will have those conversations this year, but let's make a plan once this year is finished then to sit down and have those conversations. Where have we gone wrong and how can it be fixed? So we'll see. I mean, TBD on that. Ferrari has also said that they still believe in their car. They are planning some changes, just some updates that are going to be happening actually over the next several races. So Fred, the team principal, said they're sticking with their plan, but they're making adjustments. We're not going to see any of the changes in Baku because of the type of track that it is, but we will see changes in Miami and then in Imola and then in Barcelona. So they're not going to bring anything new to Monaco, probably again, because it's that tight, like there's not a lot of ability for overtaking and different things there. But in Barcelona, we'll see even more changes. So very exciting. We'll see what happens for Ferrari. Hopefully they can kind of turn that ship around.
Hopefully. You'd like that since you'll be there live.
Yes, very much so.
Wouldn't it be great to have have the three top places be filled by Ferrari and Aston Martin?
Amazing. I would love it, especially with two of those drivers. Oh my gosh, I was like, I still got to get that pinky down. two of those drivers being Spanish, like in Barcelona on the podium.
That'd be amazing.
It'd be so cool.
Of course, I need
cool.
I need Alonso to be first. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Alonso for sure.
Okay, I think we head up Mercedes.
Mercedes. So there was a switcheroo in Mercedes. So James Allison is moving back into the technical director role that he left almost 2 years ago. And Mike Elliott is going to be moving into the chief technical officer role. So there's been reports that Mike Elliott said he was just finding that his skill set didn't suit that chief technical officer role. And so he went and talked with Allison. Allison had been working 3 days a week. He was striving for more of a work-life balance. And that was kind of why part of the reason he moved roles. But when Mike Elliott came to him, allegedly, this is what happened. They started talking about it and they said, well, why don't we switch spots? Because, clearly we want to move the company forward. We want to move the program forward. So they went and they talked to Toto. He blessed it and it's been in the works. We don't know how long. I think it just became public knowledge last week. So there was a lot of talk about it. But I thought it was really pretty cool that, to me, it speaks more to like the environment there where, Mike Elliott's like, you know what, this really isn't for me. Like, I don't think this is using my skills and moving the car forward, moving the program forward the way that we were hoping. And I love that they just sat down and talked about it and talked it out. And they want them to be successful in their roles. They want the program to be successful. I just thought I found that really, really cool, rather than digging in their heels and just keeping people where they are, which a lot of companies do. They don't say, okay, let's make a change. Mercedes knows they need to make a change and they were willing to adjust and do what they needed to do. So I thought that was kind of really fun. So anyways, now it seems like Mike Elliott is going to take on the more strategic view, like moving forward. And that includes the changes that are coming in 2026. And then Allison's going to have control of the car design. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like any place where you let the team figure out what's best for the team is always, it breeds a better environment, for working and for progress. That to me, that's healthy. It's just a healthy environment.
Absolutely. Go where you're going to shine. And when you're shining, it's going to elevate everybody else around you. So to me, I was just like, oh, I really like that peek into the inner workings of Mercedes. And you can tell, like, to me, that just means they want to be back on top and they're willing to make the changes to do that.
And from a leader perspective too, when you see that at a leadership level, that really helps set the stage and the precedent for employees as well, and for the rest of the team to go, hey, if I'm not feeling it, if I'm not feeling comfortable, maybe I could have that same opportunity to do the same thing. So that's really cool.
I think it's awesome. So we know that they've been talking about changes coming for Mercedes, including, I think, a new side pod. George was quoted this week saying that he's been testing in the simulator the changes that are coming. Of course, they play everything very close to the vest, and he can't tell us anything more, but he said that they are heading in the right direction. So again, with the course, Baku being so different, a lot of the teams are saying, don't plan to see those updates right away, but maybe in Miami, maybe in the races to come, like once we hit the European section. So I'm excited to see what they do. I just thought it was an interesting little tidbit for you guys on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
So and then Yuki, this was like Yuki's week. It was like, did we miss a national holiday for Yuki? Everywhere I turned, it was stuff about Yuki. So F1 came out and said that Yuki and Lewis are the only two drivers to gain positions in all 3 races so far this year. So out of 20,
such a fascinating stat. That's right? So fascinating.
It's crazy. And he had more positions gained than Lewis did, which in a way makes sense because Lewis has been more towards the front of the grid, and Yuki's been a little bit further back. But I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. And it goes along with the team came out and said that they are really happy with the effort that he's making, and he's, made all of these different changes. He's calmer. He's working out with Daniel's old trainer, and I think he seems to be having a lot of fun. And I think you can see like the difference there. So before, if you knew Yuki when he first came in, he did not want to work out at all. Like, he was young. He's like a young, college age kid. He was not interested in any of that stuff. They said he's able to articulate his needs better so the engineers can, work a little bit easier with him and give him what he's looking for. And then on, I think it was F1 Beyond the Grid. They have a couple different podcasts, so I always forget which one's which, but I think it's on Beyond the Grid. The whole podcast was him, and I listened to the whole thing, and it was just so cool to listen to him because there is so much depth there. He talks about food. He's such a foodie, and he really knows his food, and I love that about him. But then also he was talking about how he's learning from people like Fernando, and how, like, last year, I think it was, he was holding off Hamilton, and Hamilton finally got around him. But he said during the race, he was watching Alonso, who was then holding off Hamilton. And he was he was picking up on the way he positioned his car or where he put his car going into different turns. And he was learning from that. And he said he's a huge fan of Fernando. And he always wanted to do the helmet swap, but he was too afraid to ask. And he said that last year, I think it was last year, Fernando suggested, like, Yuki, let's switch helmets. Let's do the helmet swap. And he said he was trying to be all cool on the outside, but inside he was so excited. And I thought, Yuki is all of us. This is why he's a treasure. Like, we all would have been dying inside, but trying to maintain like this,
It's a calm. It's cool. It's
calm
cool.
exterior.
Fanboy. Yeah, and it's great to see that he is calming down because, for a while he was just like off the cuff and kind of disrespectful, and it's nice to see the maturity. The maturity's coming, and he's getting there. And I think it's just interesting considering, how Nick had come in as like he was going to take it and lead the team, and Yuki just sat quietly, and Yuki is letting his actions show his strength, right? Versus his words, which is good.
I think it's great. And like you said, they were expecting that. And he has stepped up, and he's outperformed Nick in the first 3 races. So they definitely need to give him a better car if he's going to, consistently try to be in the points. One thing I think that gets forgotten about Yuki is that he really before he came to F1, he only had 2 seasons in like a single-seater car. He made a huge leap into F1. So he definitely had some growing pains, I think, but he's settling into himself. And again, we talked about this in previous podcasts. This year, he knows he has to prove himself, but he's stepping up to the challenge, and his bosses are seeing it. So I'm excited for a better year for Yuki.
Oh, I am too.
1,000,000%.
And can't do a podcast, it seems, without talking about Red Bull.
They are like the top team. But yeah, so they dropped some of the most creative livery designs that they got for Miami. So
I can that.
Yes, if you're listening, go check out on YouTube because we have each of the 3 car designs that they posted. So we mentioned this actually during the launches. They said that for each of the US races, they were going to hold a contest and have a fan designed livery. And so for Miami, they dropped the top 3. Well, I don't even know. Actually, I shouldn't say that they dropped the top 3. These may not be the top 3. These were the ones they said are the most creative. The final design is going to be announced on May 3rd. But they're all very tropical. This one that we're showing has like palm trees on it. It's like pink and green. And I think that one was my favorite.
Yeah, and the post says it's the few of the most creative.
And
the full reveal is May 3rd. I like this one. I like this one under the sea with the crabs and all that. Probably because I'm a scuba diver.
Oh, yeah. I do love this one too. This is so good that it does make me wonder what the one they chose looks like. This is very SpongeBob to me, and I love it. I love SpongeBob.
I like this was kind of abstract and artsy. It makes me think of South Beach. Yeah. And I wonder if that's what the person was going for who designed this one, if they were trying to get kind of a South Beach feel to it.
I think you're right, because it is very abstracted. It's got that more high-end art look. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see their Red Bull. It's kind of interesting. They still have the bull on the top, so I don't know that it all goes together
I wonder if
perfectly.
that was the requirements. Yeah, because
I'm
all of
sure
them,
it
that's kind of
was.
the area. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
it was.
it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
They're completely different, all three of them, you know.
all three. So yeah, when we see the announcement come out on May 2nd or May 3rd,
Right.
for the one that they actually will be using in Miami, we'll throw that out there on our social media. And then another thing that I thought was really cool that they announced is they are doing 2 road trips. So there's one in Europe that's going to end in Silverstone, and then there's another one in the US that's going to end in Vegas. And on both of those road trips, the last leg, Danny Rick is going to be the driver. So I went and looked at the US one because I'm still trying to figure out how to get to Vegas. And like, well, let me see how this works. And my initial
I'm
thought,
actually trying to get to Silverstone.
oh, I want to go to Silverstone.
Oh, saying.
Okay, we'll talk about that we'll talk about that offline. I initially thought that they were just going to, be driving the car from, I think it starts in LA for the US, and hit different spots. And they would tell people we're going to be at this spot and people could show up there. But what they're really doing is, it sounds more like maybe a caravan, or maybe they're doing buses. I don't entirely know, but whatever you pay, because they don't give you the price and you have to reach out to their hospitality team for info. And since it's considering everything that it includes, I would not be able to do it. I decided not to waste hospitality time in asking this question, but it includes like your food. It includes hotel, one night in the US trip. They are camping or glamping. Hopefully it's glamping and not camping, but camping in the desert. And then it includes, like, I think a special reception once they get to Vegas. It includes race tickets. I think it includes your hotel there. So, I mean, this is going to be very, very pricey, but it sounded like a lot of fun, like a blast.
It does sound fun. We'll have to look into it.
Why I can't be independently wealthy, I don't know, but
Looking a lot of.
I don't play.
I know that doesn't help.
It doesn't help. But somebody won, like, I don't know, they won not the Powerball, but a Mega Millions or something down here at the grocery store I go to all the time.
I saw somebody with the billion a couple of, last year or something. Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Anyways.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that one, see what that was all about.
Yeah.
Somebody could sponsor us. We would take it. We mentioned your name every 5 minutes,
We'll wear your shirt, hat, whatever. We'll look like an F1 driver with the logos all over us. Whatever you need. Come on, Red Bull. We'll be your biggest fans.
All right, McLaren. And you said we were talking about driver programs earlier. They do have a new driver program you were telling me about.
Yeah, they do. So it's new. Well, they say it's new. I also read someplace it's like a relaunch or something. But anyways, it's being led by former McLaren test driver. He's an F1 driver. He's a Le Mans winner, Emmanuel Pirot. And their hope, just like all the other teams that have the driving programs, is to support young drivers moving, into F1. So whether from karting, it might be people that are professional race car drivers, but just in other areas. So maybe like IndyCar or what have you. And their goal is to create like a little pipeline of talent. I mean, I feel like they're a little late to the program, but but hey, better late than never. But the one thing I didn't necessarily see was any mention as to like women drivers. So not sure if they'll also be included coming out of the karting program or maybe one of the other programs. But a lot of the really great women drivers out there are snapped up by Alpine and Williams and like all of that stuff. So maybe they are going to do that. It just wasn't necessarily specified. So
it's interesting. I wonder if it's a relaunch too, because they're just losing out on some of the good drivers of the last couple of seasons. They tried to buy them away from teams and then they lost them back to other teams, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, we shall see.
See.
So one thing that was kind of on my mind, I keep calling this little 4-week break, spring break. And so this 4-week period is different than the summer break that happens. I think that's like in August or something, where unlike that time where they are not allowed to touch the cars or do any work on the cars, it's truly a break, time off. Teams have been able to work on their cars, and we know that they're making little changes here and there. Nobody has the cost cap, I think within the cost cap has the money to completely redesign the car, but they can all be making adjustments to kind of like help, like what they're seeing, where things have not been working so far. So I'm just curious, like your thought on if you think these little tweaks are really going to help in the next 20 races, or who you're hoping these little tweaks and little fixes that they're doing is going to help do better. Because really, even though it feels like we've been through a whole year of races in the first 3, we've got 20 more races to go.
Anymore. Well, I'm hoping whatever it is that seems to just be keeping Aston Martin on the edge, like they're just so close.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you saw. I mean, Alonso is third 3 times in a row. But what's keeping him such a great season driver? He was what, I forget, 15 seconds. Oh, he was mini seconds behind Checo in that this last couple of races and Max. So what is it? What's keeping him and keep continuing to fall so far behind the Red Bull car? I mean, I'm hoping Red Bull hasn't made even more changes that gets him even faster and faster. But just like, can Aston Martin get up there? Can Mercedes get themselves a little further up there too? Because they both have pretty decent cars and great drivers. So what more can they do to tighten that gap with Mercedes? That's what I'm hoping for the front of the pack. And then for the mid, because I don't really think we have much of a back. I'd love to see how much more Alpine and Williams have done to pull themselves up further, because they've done so well, I think, this year. I think better than a lot had expected. I think I've heard several comments and different commentators talk about how they didn't expect the cost cap to have such quick results in tightening up the pack. I'd like to see what they've done to bring them up, because Yuki and Gasly and some of the others have done so well and shown up in the higher up in the points. I'd like to see that. We were talking in one of the episodes just how close some of the different point groups are. We've got a lot of people tied. It'd be interesting, because I'd love to just see it just bounce all up and down this year, and especially in that area, and it not be just like, this one's just so far out of the way,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's another thing you and I talked about earlier this week, is that all the teams have scored at least 1 point this year. And I can't remember if that's like the first time that's happened, or it's been a long time since that happened. But I remember saying, like, I think it's a fun time to be a fan, because they are competitive already, and they all know they need to make these changes. So I think I'm most excited to see Williams, because they have performed pretty well. But also Alpine, like you said, they've been so close, and especially the last race, like in Australia, they were both looking so good.
They took themselves out.
Yeah. So, and Pierre, I mean, okay, I'm just going to admit this, and don't come at me, but I used to think like Pierre was a little overrated. And I thought, not this year. I can see what everybody else saw in him, because he really has been up there. And so I fully admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong on that 1,000,000%. So I'm rooting for him. I and Esteban also, but I would like to see those 2 teams. I want to see what they have going on. And then of course, McLaren. I'm feeling for Lando right now, because the car just has not looked good, but we all knew they were having changes coming for Baku. We know that Zach Brown has said we might not see the results in this race, but moving forward, we will. So I think what's exciting, like you said, there's such a tight little pack that I want to, and everybody's working on their cars, that now I'm excited to see, okay, who's pushed just a little bit harder, who's done a little bit more, which adjustments are going to take effect and give them the results they're looking for. So I'm excited.
It's really interesting. And it dawned on me while we were talking, how does this set up any precedent because they don't. I mean, they don't change a lot about their cars year over year until 2026, right? There's not like a complete redesign or anything until 2026. Um, I can't recall with the. We haven't checked into the status, and I know we didn't talk about this with prep for this in this episode, but there was a couple other teams that were vying to try to get into F1.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they can join before 2026, and if they
No.
did, no, okay, so then it wouldn't affect it. So it was just hit me, so it doesn't matter anymore. Never mind, we'll keep going. It's me learning.
Hey, we're all learning. So, all
right, Lewis Hamilton. I can't believe you've got this and reflecting on 10 years.
I know.
10 years.
So I watched this YouTube, I think it was on the Mercedes YouTube channel, and they had all these photos kind of out on a desk. And I kind of had to laugh because Vogue does this a lot, where they have fashion. They'll have some either a famous movie star or a model, and they have all this fashion that, over the last 10, 20 years, and they'll pick up a picture and they'll talk about it. And so that's what they did with Lewis. And the one thing that stood out to me is he was talking about how when he was with McLaren and he was looking at moving to Mercedes, like his dad, and he said just so many people were telling him to stay with McLaren. But he knew, like in his heart, like deep down, that Mercedes was where he should be. So he took the risk and really wasn't listening to what all these other people, including his dad, who, usually you put a lot of stock into, like your parents, what your parents have to say. And he went to Mercedes, and I was like, you know what? You did the right thing, because look at the career that he's had with Mercedes. And I thought, I think Lewis is like a little guru. He's super positive all the time. And he always, I think that he's very self-reflecting. And I thought that is just such a great reminder to listen to your inner voice, even when people that you trust and have your best interests at heart. Sometimes you have to go with what your gut is telling you, what
sometimes
you're being told deep down. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
I appreciate his wherewithal. He continues to work in a sport that, with diversity is tough, and he keeps fighting the fight, and he gets pushed back, and he just continues to do what's right. So I really appreciate that. Me and my passion for diversity. So I think that's just amazing of him. So I definitely like supporting him.
Yeah.
All right. We have one more thing on teams. This one I think is almost a pseudo announcement we just talked about. So F1 Academy.
Yeah, they have their first race this weekend. So not only do we have F1, we have F1 Academy. So there's 2 races. We don't know where.
I think it's an interesting name for it. F1 Academy.
F1 Academy. I have to think about it. Yeah, we were looking earlier this week to see where we could watch it. We're not really sure where we can watch it, although their website, I think, will have timing and all that kind of stuff. They have a very different format than F1. And so Claire and I were actually talking. We really do want to talk about F1 Academy. We want to promote that sport. But it's so different. And so we're not going to have time to talk about how that works and racing and all of that stuff on this podcast. So we might be coming at you with a little shorter version throughout the week about F1 Academy. So
yes, if so, we'll just set up another kind of on YouTube. It'll be a different playlist, and we'll just have a different kind of subtitles so people know the difference. So we'll release our normal Tuesday release for this one, and then we'll just have a separate release for F1 Academy, just because it's a lot to cover, and we definitely want to continue to promote, especially women, for She Loves the Grid, that side of the sport for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for it. Got to find it. Hopefully we'll get live broadcasting somewhere. If not, we'll just have to watch it after the fact.
Yeah, we can gather the knowledge after the fact. But yes, I think I don't know. I was just going to repeat myself and say I think it's really important. We want to, and they only have 7 races this year, and then next year I don't know how many they have next year, but they will follow more on the same weekends as F1. They'll be at the tracks with F1.
And maybe that'll make it easier for the broadcasting, right? Because then it won't conflict with the timings and all that. F1 TV can cover them easier. So
exactly,
that might get easier.
Yeah, because this week, obviously F1's in Baku, and then the F1 Academy is in Spa. So
it makes it a little difficult. All right. I think we're doing good on timing. So grid
Yeah.
basics. It's
Good
sprint
basics.
race weekend. So now we get to talk a little bit about what a sprint race is. And
I
it's
know, finally. We have
I'm
mentioned this so
excited.
many times, and I feel like it's already here, even though this has been the longest eternity, 4 weeks between races. So sprint races are happening 6 times this year. They doubled it from last year. Last time they just did 3. We're going to show you a little graphic on what we think the weekend is going to look like.
Your
But
video just went really weird. You're purple.
it is purple. I don't know why. That
Yeah, it's so weird.
I'm not sure why.
Now you're pink.
Okay, well, it's mood lighting, people. I don't know. I'm not. Okay, well, we're just going to go with it. We're just going to roll with it. Okay,
You have a
so
filter.
what's that?
It's like you have a filter. You're like a
I
disco
know,
filter.
and I definitely don't. Okay, anyways, just thank goodness most people are looking. I mean, not looking at us, because most people listen, they don't look. Okay, so let me get my stuff out. So here's what everybody kind of thinks this weekend is going to look like for the sprint. This is not official. Supposedly, all of the teams are in agreement on this schedule, but the FIA is not going to be until maybe Tuesday to vote on this. So this is what's showing actually. Well, I will say this. On F1's website for Saturday, it does not say sprint qualifying. It says FP2. So we will update this if we wake up on Tuesday morning and we find out that they've made a change, or there's some more information on how like sprint qualifying is going to work. I will do a little video and we'll post it out there on our social media. So just wanted to kind of give that little thing out there, put that out there. This could change. So this go round, we are looking Friday morning at having an FP1. So that's going to be your normal 1 hour of practice for the teams, get the cars set up the way that they like them. And then instead of FP2 on Friday, we are going to have a qualifying to set the grid for Sunday's race. So Friday qualifying sets the grid for Sunday. Saturday, we're going to have some sort of sprint qualifying. Now, it's been totally up in the air on what that looks like. Some people have said it was going to be like our usual Q1, Q2, Q3, but Q3 was just going to be 1 lap. Now it's been said, no, they're not doing that. We're still going to do Q1 to Q2 and Q3, but the times are going to be shorter. So it won't be the usual quali times that we see where it kind of goes down. I'm sure the times will go down, but it's going to be shorter. That sprint qualifying is going to set the grid for the sprint, which is going to take place Saturday afternoon. So we've got stuff happening all 3 days. All 3 days will make a difference in the sense that Saturday you get points for how you finish in the sprint. So we'll see how that goes. So there is points there. I believe that on Saturday, the sprint is going to be made up of 17 laps or 60 minutes. So whichever comes first. It usually is, I want to say, about half the number of laps. I think there's 51. So that can't be right. Totally. 3, 4. Anyways, so about 17 laps is what they're looking for. We haven't done a sprint in Baku. And a lot of the teams, even though they're in support of this sprint schedule, some of them are not happy about it. Like Christian Horner is not thrilled. He thinks it's ludicrous to have, and that's his word, ludicrous, to have the first sprint race at Baku, especially when you have Miami the next week, because one false move in these tight, like if you're looking at our screen on YouTube, you see like the tight corners. It's a very tiny little street that goes around these medieval walls. And so one false move and you could be done. And that's expensive. And especially for Red Bull, because they are at the top, like, why do they want to put their car at extra risk? So he's not thrilled about it. Max doesn't think that sprints are necessary in general. He has felt in the past that most people are very protective of their cars, so it's not really that effective. And he's kind of threatened that he's not going to stick around in F1 if these become more of the norm, which I don't entirely believe. He's a competitor. I don't think he's going to go. One, like on the pro side of things, I think that you have all 3 days, there is an impact versus having, on Fridays, normally we have 2 practice sessions, but now one of those is a qualifying for Sunday's race. So that is impactful to the actual race. Saturday, like we said, you get points. Obviously, Sunday you get points. So there's that.
Well, there's less, and then there's less practice. And that was something they were talking about last race is, do we really need so much practice?
Exactly. And I think that's why some people are concerned that there might be more and more of these sprints. It's taxing, I think, on the cars. It's taxing on the drivers. So, there's pros and cons.
Well, they're forced to race twice in a weekend, technically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to go all out if you want the points. The fans enjoy it. We know, or it seems like Stefano, the CEO for F1, is really trying to push more entertainment in regards to Formula One. So this is a trial. We'll see if it continues in the rest of the sprint races. We've got 5 more after this one throughout the season. Maybe they'll have even more next year. We'll see. But I think it's going to be interesting because from what I understood, the teams had already received their tires for the next few races. I don't know if Pirelli's going to give them more tires now because you essentially have 2 qualifyings and you have 1.5 races, like the way I look at it. So as far as strategy goes, I'm really curious, like even if they have some extra tires, I don't think you're going to give them like double the extra tires. The teams are really going to have to determine how do they best want to allocate the tires over these 2 qualifyings, over the sprint, over the actual race day. So that's what I'm really going to be looking for this weekend is how does that change the strategy for the teams?
That's a good point. And yeah, that's a really good point. And what you said earlier too about taxing on the drivers, I didn't even think about that when we were talking earlier and prepping that actually you've got to get all that energy up. You've got qualifying. I was just thinking earlier about you qualify for Sunday's race. How is that going to impact you? You know where you are on the grid for Sunday. When you go into qualifying on Saturday and in the race on Saturday, you have to be on for that. And that's probably in your head. And then how you perform on Saturday is going to weigh in your head psychologically on your race on Sunday. But just the fact of how exhausting this, we've talked about this before about how they weigh themselves after the race and how much weight and water weight and whatnot they lose. That's 2 days back to back of that intensity, and then we were going into what was it 6 races in a row, back to back racing. That's hard enough in itself. And now you've got the sprint race and a race. It's actually 2. And I don't know if there's how many sprints there are in the next 6 weeks. There's other ones in there.
Remember.
That's pretty tough on these athletes.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know what the temperature is going to be there, but I mean, when it's hotter, it's even more like it puts them under even more pressure. People, it drives me crazy. And I will admit, like before I really knew about F1, you think like, what does it take to be a driver? And I mean, they're pulling G's, like there's so much that they go through in a race. And granted, again, the sprint is less laps, but you still are wanting to get as many points as you can. And with a season like this, where the teams are so close especially in that midsection. And we talked last week about points. When you have races like Australia where people are crashing and points we discussed are going to be really hard to get because the teams are so close in time, something like this, you are going to want to grab those sprint points, those extra points. It could put you, higher up. It could put you, if you're finishing out of those points, you could be completely
it's going to be in the high 60s, low 70s.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
No,
that's not too bad.
No,
that's not too bad. But
it's still a lot of work. It's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
Especially the number of G's that they pull. They've got to do that. it's one thing with the qualifying and the practice, like you were saying, but to do that for a 60-minute race on Saturday and then to turn right back around and race on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's going to be a lot. And again, on this circuit, I think it's going to be interesting. And another analogy that's come up, because you have qualifying on Friday and then that takes place for the race on Sunday, like it's kind of weird, where you're doing like half. I don't know. You're going to have every day has an impact. Is the overall thing.
And I just checked. The next sprint race isn't until June 30th, so they don't have another one in the next 6 weeks. So that's good at least. So
that is good. Yeah,
but they're starting this 6 weeks run off with a sprint race, so they're starting it off pretty heavy.
Yeah. I think it's 5 races in the next 6 weeks, and then you go straight to Miami. So if your car gets hurt, like crash,
we were just talking about, they've got to ship it to Miami, and so it's a cargo flight, but still, it's a much lengthier and harder process to get it from Azerbaijan all the way to Miami, and then the race, and then Miami back over the water back to the next spot, so different than moving it around just within Europe. So
exactly. I mean, I guess the good thing is you've got people back at the factory. If you crash all your front wings or something, they can ship them to Miami for you. But still, like, it's going to be interesting. I do normally like a sprint. This is going to be a little bit different. And like I said, this is the supposed schedule. So if it changes from what we've told you today, we will go out on our social media and update it. And I might just update it anyways with, I guess since we don't know exactly how that sprint qualifying is going to work, then I will maybe do a little video or a little something to kind of let you know. Okay, you talk for a second, because I'm going to try to stop my camera and see if it'll start again. I don't know why it's being weird.
Clean the front of the camera lens too. It says something about the IR sensors might be off.
Oh.
Like that.
No.
I don't know. You're just nice and purple haze. Start singing "Purple Rain" by Prince here in a
second. Something like that.
All right. Well, I think that was about it for that. Now we go to Beyond the Grid. I cannot believe this first question. I had not heard this. I cannot believe I'm keeping up with this. My boy cannot be dating Taylor Swift. That just does not sound right. He can date me. I'll date him.
Right? I think it's ridiculous. So probably every other podcast, we don't focus on like the drivers' dating lives, but this was too good to pass up. But every other podcast is probably, this is their lead story, but for us, it's not. So I think it was yesterday I woke up and saw all this stuff out there about, is Taylor Swift dating Fernando Alonso? Supposedly they've been seeing each other for 2 weeks, and all of the Swifties are going down rabbit holes talking about, like, he's posting 33, which we all know is when he gets his next win, it will be his 33rd win. But her age is 33, and he broke up with his girlfriend about the same time she broke up with her boyfriend. And I don't know. There's all these conspiracies out there, and people have just taken it and ran with it, probably because we're all bored as all get out, because it's been 4 weeks since a race. And what else do we have to talk about but these made up rumors about Fernando and Taylor Swift? And I like Taylor Swift, and I think she puts on a heck of a show, and she's a great businesswoman, but I agree with you. No, I don't want to see that crossover.
No. I'll throw it in the hat right now.
Yeah, so we had to touch on it. I sent it to Anya because she did rate Fernando very high in her rating video, and she's a big Taylor Swift fan. So I sent it to her yesterday, and I said, I don't think this is true, but you also rated him very high, so I could see how maybe it would happen.
Yeah, I just, I'm going to start looking that up. I'm sorry, I don't like rumors, but that one I'm going to have to actually look into. Okay.
You're going to have to tell us, because from what I've read, and I did not go down the rabbit holes, there's a whole bunch of things that People
When you start typing in Fernando Alonso, the number one Google suggestion is Taylor Swift next. So it's definitely a high search subject. So interesting.
But the good thing is maybe all of her fans who did not know anything about F1, now they might start following F1. They can listen to our podcast because we're all Fernando fans, and we can go from there.
Yeah,
More fans for the sport. Yay!
Yeah, let's take a look at that. All right.
Moving
So
on.
Oscar and Lando in the English driving test.
Okay. I love Oscar and Lando. I'm just going to say that up front. But they did kind of a driver challenge. So a lot of teams are doing this. Charles and Carlos have done the C2 challenge for a long time. They just do something fun, pitting the drivers, in little competitions. And they're usually really funny. You get to know them a little bit better. So McLaren did one. And it was Oscar and Lando sitting outside, kind of maybe like at a picnic table. And they gave them the driving test to get your English driver's license. And so they were reading the questions and then they had to answer the correct answer. Now, I'm not going to say anything about people getting stuff wrong because I remember when Anya was going for her driving test and she was studying and she was asking me the questions and I was getting some wrong because you don't remember all those little technical things. You're like, no, but nobody drives that way.
No, let's talk about, we don't want to talk about you and driving.
I'm a good driver though.
Yeah, you're a good driver. You're an angry driver.
I'm a feisty driver. I'm a driver like
feisty.
you. I need to mature like
you are. Yeah,
like
feisty. We'll use that word, feisty.
Feisty, yeah. But I just thought I just kind of wish they wouldn't have put it out there because I felt like there was no chemistry between the two of them. They didn't even have like a little bell to ring. They were pounding, the table. It's like, it just didn't seem super thought out. Didn't seem like there was a lot of chemistry there between the two of them. And I swear at one point, Lando said, "This is boring, isn't it?" Like I just don't think they were into it. Maybe that's why there was a lack of chemistry. I just kind of wish McLaren hadn't put it out there because I don't think it was like a great.
We may have to start doing some of these tests for fun.
Oh, we should.
We should start doing some of these. We could do some TikToks like that. Just me and you doing some tests with different countries. Like I'm never going to drive in Germany, but we could do a German driving test. I'm still convincing you have to move here anyway. So we can do a German driving test, see how well we do.
Okay, when we are together, we're going to stay up one night. We'll have some wine and we'll stay up and we'll do a whole bunch of these.
On it. Okay, this next one. Up with some. Next one, I'm going to start it because you sent it to me and it was the best thing ever. And I'm renting this flat. I hope to buy it one day. And once I do buy a place here in Germany, you know how much I had smart homed my house in Florida. Yes. And I am all about the gadgets that we come up with behind me. That's just my work setup. You guys do not see the personal setup that has way more screens. Yes. I did not have this, but they asked Williams principal James Vowles about the craziest app that he has on his phone.
Yeah.
And he said it serves no purpose whatsoever, but he has an app that shows him the contents of his fridge. And he showed the contents of his fridge. That's all it is. And he showed it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I still have been in Germany for 2.5 months and still go to the faucet and go, oh, I don't have a smart faucet. I can't wave my hand in front of the faucet and turn it on. I mean, I finally have at least one light in this place that I can turn on and off with my voice. But I could turn so many lights on and off, and I could turn things. Oh, I love that.
I know. I knew you would, and that's why I sent it to you because I figured if anybody would have this app that shows the inside of their refrigerator, it would probably be you. But it must be.
I didn't know that existed. Oh, I had to have that. I have to.
Mine would be so sad, but I thought it was so fun. I thought it was. I think Williams put it out there, but they did 20 questions, and they just asked him all these questions, and I thought. Never paid much attention to James, but I think I really like James. He is funny. He is hysterical.
And I loved how he said when he got done, he goes, "You're welcome."
He is funny. He's so good. And they asked him too, who would win a foot race between you and all the other team principals? And he just kind of looked at them and he's like, me. That's not even a question. hands down. Like it would be me. And then I got a visual of like Fred and Gunter and like, although I think Toto and I think Toto and Christian would be kind of competitive, but there's some that maybe not so much.
All right.
So now I'm going to keep my eyes on the William principal.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
funny.
Well, that and I see the principals, and then there's Mike Rack. So anyway, so many reasons. Okay, we're nearing another hour. How do we do this? Okay, it is almost race week. Azerbaijan. I know it's off Baku. We have to do a series just how they have 2 names for every race location.
I know. You have to stop and think about it.
Another street circuit. It's going to be crazy. I love that it is near Shoreline. I almost got tickets for it. I saw it. It's beautiful where it's at. So it's going to be exciting.
You did suggest us going to this before we bought our tickets to Barcelona. You suggested it. And I was like, I don't know. Maybe we should have. We'd be heading there now.
It's gonna be fun though. I love how you said you're gonna be white knuckling it.
Well,
it's gonna be crazy.
Around that first turn, you can get the cars 3 across. And I'm always like stress ball once that lights go out, you know, I am always like, because they're all gunning it. Yeah, and now you can get 3 across. We've seen the beginnings of the races, and that first like straight, I don't know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah, like I said, mistakes are definitely going to be costly because there's between the sprint and then the race, and then a week later they're in Miami. There's just it's going to be so interesting. It's 4 a.m. for you, right? It's 4 a.m.
It's at 4 a.m. So I'm not getting up that early. Claire will be handling the social media. I will get up at 5:30 or 6 and watch it. I'll be watching it live. But yeah, it's too early for me. I think qualifying on Friday is at a decent time. But what I think is cool about this street circuit is like you've got that there's a really long main straight, and so you get a lot of slipstreaming there, and so you can get some passing, but then it like flips. So when they go around like the medieval walls, it's very narrow and it's tiny, and so it affects the way that they set up their cars. So you either have to set up like with with more downforce, to either focus on the downforce for the straights, or you have to do less drag it's the opposite, right? More downforce for the turns and less drag for the straight. I think that's how that works.
That circuit's crazy. And there's 2 DRS zones.
2 DRS zones. Yep. And then, it's going to be exciting. I've said it 100 times. I get so nervous around the street circuits with the narrowness, and it's gonna be
good. It's gonna be good. Well, we're gonna be doing, and then we should be able to record after that day. So we're back to a normal recording schedule, and so this is coming out on Tuesday, and then we'll see you guys after that one. So I think we're wrapping up. Thank you everyone for following us, and those who get to watch us on YouTube get to see Dianne enjoying the purpleness of I'm going to have to
shut down my laptop for a while. But the 4 weeks of torture are coming to an end. We are starting race week. I cannot wait. And
back to the grid.
Back to the grid, and we get our first sprint race of the season. So lots to look forward to.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming along the ride this week. Everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week after the race.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind the scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.